afternoon. This is your show Afreeqa and your host Kazalork Seifu. Today we brought you somebody very interesting. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Metasebia Yoseph, the founder of Design Week Addis Ababa.
So who is Metasebia? Please tell us a little about yourself.
Metasebia is a multidisciplinary artist, founder, creative in my own right. I'm also the author of A Culture of Coffee. And also the founder of Design Week, obviously.
Yes.
We're here to discuss. So, yes.
Who inspires you and why?
I'm inspired by my mother, my roots. Mm-hmm. So obviously my cultural heritage inspires me immensely. That's why I moved to Ethiopia and do a lot of work here, as well as in DC. But a lot of my creative and cultural work is focused here in Ethiopia. So I studied art history.
Okay.
So I did a year-long work study at the Institute of Ethiopian Studies in Kilo, where I got to work directly with the artifacts and artworks there. And it was an amazing experience. Sure. And so just being that close to all of this amazing cultural heritage really, really inspired me, and it continues to inspire me.
Now we got into, so I'm going to bring you back to you. So I want you to give us a little back history of you. Like, where did you grow up? How was school? How was, growing up?
I guess like any, children of immigrants, you have like a hybrid identity. So I was born in Washington, D.C. And raised there. And, I have a different name than the kids growing up. It's long Metasebia. Yoseph's like 9 letters. So it was it was interesting kind of being received in school. Mm. And, it's as you grow that you kind of begin to appreciate the things that make you different, right? So, but when you're younger, it's the worst.
I know, you want to blend in.
You want to adapt, you want to blend, you don't want to stand out.
No.
But as I matured and grew up, so I've always been into the arts. I think Ethiopians as a people we're immensely creative culture and hizb. So I kind of was given the space and the freedom to follow that passion and to explore that. Thanks to my mom and my dad, they gave us the freedom to do that, which a lot of people don't get the chance. And so I studied art history. I didn't do the traditional, what you should study path, and kind of just focused on the creative sector. So I thought I would be like a gallerist or working in a museum there in DC, which has a lot of museums and culture as well. But there weren't that many opportunities for people like me. So they were very narrow in their selection of who gets to be curator and this kind of thing. So I said, I'm going to check out Ethiopia and see what's going on over there. And that's when I started at the Institute of Ethiopian Studies. And I said, I want to just work here.
That's beautiful. What's something you're really proud of?
As far as like my work?
Could be
anything. I'm a proud mom.
There you go.
So I'm pretty proud to have birthed these 2 children. So that's a big feat for me. And going through that experience really transformed me as a woman. So that's something.
Exactly. It does transform.
I'm proud of. That comes to mind, top of mind for me. But there's a lot of things I'm proud of. I continue to just chase my own definition for life and success. So every time I check something off my list, I'm proud.
Beautiful. So you did mention that you've written a book, and the book is The Culture of Coffee. So could you tell us how you decided to even write that book on coffee in particular?
It started as a part of my master's thesis. Okay. So just to take it back a little bit, after staying in Ethiopia too long, my father said, go and get your master's. You think you want to live here? And I said, okay, I'll get my master's. And I did a multidisciplinary program at Georgetown, which was communication, culture, and technology. And they constantly challenged us to look at the intersection of things that mean different things at different times to different people. So I said, I take my root and source and inspiration from my own cultural heritage. So I said, okay, well, what about coffee? Coffee as a technology, coffee as a form of social communication agent, coffee as commerce and this big economic impact that it has all over the world. So I really got curious about this really intersectional thing of coffee, and then also representing the origins of coffee, which the whole world is drinking Ethiopian originated coffee, but doesn't know the story behind it. Right. So that started in 2013, and it was also in the midst of Ethiopia advocating for its origin rights and geographic indicator rights with Starbucks and other corporations to say, no, these are specialty coffees. These are really like elite, species. So it kind of coincided with that, and that was 2013. So we're actually approaching the 10-year anniversary.
Wow. So can we get it? Is it sold in Ethiopia, or do you have to get it online?
So we were selling it online, but we've now taken it down so that we can do a 10-year anniversary edition.
Okay.
So that's hopefully coming up in 2023.
Oh, brilliant. So we'll get that chance then.
Yes. Hopefully we'll do a follow-up interview about that.
Awesome. Awesome. How can you solve problems by a design-centered approach?
Yeah. So when we first started Design Week back in 2015, I was really interested in focusing the conversation, the development conversation especially, and making sure that design was at the core of it. Because ultimately, although a lot of us were thinking, oh, design is fashion, oh, design is kind of things that they don't think have that much impact, although they do, I wanted to kind of change the narrative to say design is problem solving. Mm-hmm. So if we are saying we're in the midst of a development, or developmental state or whatever, I don't like these type of terms, but if we're saying Ethiopia as a country is going or in the process of development, then design has to be part of the conversation so that we can creatively and innovatively solve our problems.
Can you tell us about your experimental cultural projects?
So going back to a culture of coffee, so because as I mentioned, the Georgetown program was it's multidisciplinary program. So I used the Culture of Coffee project and added technology and multimedia elements into the way people experienced the project, right? So adding kind of live, coffee ceremonial aspects, multisensory aspects, multimedia aspects, and the convergence of all of these things in one space allow different kind of audience members to take away different things from it. So that is a lot of what goes into my work, and especially in Design Week. So when I'm very much cognizant about the way, what is the audience experiencing? Right. Okay, how is the exhibitor presenting their work? So because of my art historical background and my time working in galleries, I'm always thinking about the different perspectives.
Can you describe the connection between culture and technology and the intersection of art and technology?
So it's interesting because I think technology a lot of times takes up a lot of the space in the conversation, when technology is really just a tool we use, to enhance different kinds of things. So for me, technology, I use it to enhance the way that either art is produced or experienced, the same way as culture. So recently, we were working on a big cultural digitization project. So using technology to expand the reach of culture. So especially during COVID times when we cannot travel and see different places and museums, from your own home, you can go and see the details of a facade, of an artwork. And so technology as a tool is really important to bring us closer together for these type of exchanges.
Do you think we've utilized that?
I think we could utilize it better.
Better.
Yeah, I think it is.
Especially as a country.
I think we're just scratching the surface. I think there's just so much culture. And then even is culture really getting the weight that it demands, right? So first we have to appreciate the culture first, what we have, and then step 2, how to use technology to enhance it.
How do you create interactions that resonate across touch points?
For me, again, a lot of that is through technology for me. So using different kind of multimedia elements, multisensory elements. What is the sound? What is the taste of something? What is the feel of something? So even when we do exhibits for Design Week, I always encourage people, touch it, feel it, smell it. These are the ways it will imprint on your brain. So once that we've done that and we've transmitted this concept of this idea to you, who knows what you're going to do with it?
Right.
Right? So we're planting seeds, really.
Yeah. It'd be nice to see how far those seeds went.
Yeah.
How do you cultivate an organic cultural synthesis between platform and participant?
I think that's a great question. I'm still working on, doing that. But I think by, producing programming and exhibits that actually resonate with the audience,
Okay.
right? So in order to facilitate that exchange across the different, platforms between the participant and the platform, the concepts that are being expressed have to resonate with the audience and vice versa. So it has to be organic, it has to resonate. I think that's one thing for me, and it's obviously something I continue to kind of work at.
Now, Design Week. What compelled you to start this event?
Another great question. I think back in 2015, I just saw that, and it could be my outsider perspective. So when I came then, I just saw so much talent amongst the creative community, which was not even really community then. It was just kind of different factions. And then within my, my corporate consulting world, there was always this attitude of, oh, let's get so-and-so to do this UX or UI or to draw this or to create this, and they have to be from abroad. And I'm like, no, there's local amazing talent. So there was this big disconnect between the cultural and the commercial. So I said, well, they have this Design Week event that happens all over the world, and it's this time where the commercial and the cultural and the creative all come together and they converge. So why don't we have that so we can, number one, proof of concept. So I think, which you also attended, the first one, I think we were able to do that, and then it just kept growing from there.
It was a very interesting event. I really liked the many exhibitors that you had and how diverse they were.
Exactly.
Because I don't think I would have thought of putting all those people together.
Yeah, and I think two things. Well, first, we were the first to kind of do this kind of pop-up concept locally in Addis, and which has now become the format for events here, which I think is fantastic to see kind of my silent imprint, if you will, on the culture. So even this kind of mix and diversity of events has become a standard. So now I'm looking to push the standard forward. I'm like, okay, now I have to innovate.
Exactly.
So stay tuned for this next week, because now I have to push things further along. So I'll be working on that. And then secondly, I think one of the things that people love so much about Design Week is that it's multidisciplinary. A lot of times events are very industry specific. So it's the architecture event or the tech event, or we're the only event where everyone gets to come together. And there's something really important in that, because cross-pollination happens, right? So when one industry is talking to another industry, new projects arise, new collaborations arise.
Exactly.
So it's really, really essential.
Can you mention some of the different sectors that would be on this event? Just so we can get an idea of, for example.
So in a general sense, we really try to cover the entire creative sector, but in very general, pillars, or themes. So we have architecture and urban planning, arts and multimedia, fashion and textiles. We also have visual communication, so like a graphic design type of things. And then food and gastronomy, technology, industrial design and interiors. So the making of objects and other types of goods. So we really cover the whole, the whole sector.
The whole spectrum, actually.
Exactly. So that's why when I try to kind of pitch Design Week to people, I'm like, no, it's for everyone.
Exactly.
You can get in anywhere.
Exactly. Nobody's left behind. I like that idea. Did you endure any difficulties in putting together your first Design Week? And then, of course, we come to the second one.
Yeah. So the first Design Week, I think it's really hard for us locally to do something that has not been done yet. Mm-hmm. So, someone had mentioned to me, which is a great saying, it's really hard to go from 0 to 1.
Wow.
So, from nothing to something is extremely difficult, and more so in this environment. Because once people see it and feel it, then they can run with it. Then we love it. But until you can demo it, it's really difficult. And you can't demo it by yourself. You need people. So it takes a little bit of vision. And so finding visionaries was a little bit difficult, but we made it happen.
You sure did. You sure did.
Thank you.
So the obstacles were not that bad to the point where you were like, okay.
Bad. I think the obstacles continue to be what the obstacles are, which is always funding.
Exactly.
Which is, always the same. We all are hustling for the same. Unfortunately, just due to the way things are, we don't have kind of endowments for the arts. We don't have.
No, we don't.
We don't have grants and these kind of things. Our successful, entrepreneurs and moguls have yet to kind of shift into being patrons of the arts and culture.
Yeah.
Hopefully they will start becoming that. I think that's very, very much soon.
It needs to happen very, very soon.
Finding where the alignment is, but there is the alignment is everywhere. But it's about being kind of creative enough to figure that out. The problem solving, right?
Creative, exactly.
So, but everywhere there is some type of middle ground where people can meet. The reason why I think we're on the cusp of that, like just for, and I'm not trying to name drop or anything, but like for example, Rofnan. Rofnan making this amazing deal, and part of his deal being these creative projects and initiatives that he's showcasing is in itself him being like a benefactor.
Right.
So it will start to become the norm.
So we have moved from 0 to 1.
Yes.
The number 2 now. What kind of tools does the next generation need to envision their future?
I think, already the tool of the phone, and it's a powerful computing device, powerful designing device, communication device, is in our pocket. So it's like having like a rocket in your pocket. It's really like you can just take off with that. But the really first taking it back a step is really here.
Exactly.
So just kind of taking down any type of limitation in your mind, because you can't fly if you're like in a box.
Right.
So you have to kind of open up your mind and just kind of clear the way for the possibilities. And so then once you use your mind and then the tools that you have at hand, it's endless.
Right? It's limitless. Does Ethiopia have a robust arts infrastructure? And who does in Africa, if anyone in Africa, any country in Africa does have a robust infrastructure?
We have a robust cultural community,
right,
and a community of creatives. And then we do have infrastructure. We just need to connect those two.
Okay.
So those things need to be built out a little bit better. So that's that. And then in regards to Africa, I think it's kind of the same players that we know. Nairobi is doing extremely well with its cultural sector, and also South Africa. I think they understand the commercial utility, right? So they know commercially viable. These things are commercially viable, so they're willing to invest and support in it. We are just coming to that understanding. So it's not, like I said, it's not too far away.
When we say a robust arts infrastructure, what do we actually mean?
Well, I think that means different things to different people. For me, a robust arts infrastructure would definitely have grassroots kind of reach.
Okay.
So on the Kabale level, really great arts programming initiatives designed to help lift up really talented creatives, like we do maybe athletes. Right? So we already have a kind of infrastructure for that.
Yes.
So designing the same type of infrastructures for all different types of talents, not just physical talents, but creative talents and those different spectrum of sectors I just named, is really when we know it's robust.
Wow, that would really be nice. How do you intend to transform Addis into the epicenter of design, commerce, and trade?
I mean, it's already happening.
Or is it even... Okay.
It's happening.
Perfect.
It's really, honestly, like I said, those seeds have been planted and you see them growing, and they, once we have an idea as a people, it's just light speed.
So you've seen change.
I've seen a lot of change.
Beautiful.
So, but now when you see the activation of, Ethiopian Airlines as a transportation, aviation hub in this network, and then you have, more of these type of programmings reaching all over the world, plus the talent and the creative things that, we're just sharing and exchanging, these things coming together, it's like an explosion.
Absolutely. Now, Why do you think this event could be a catalyst for the rethinking of African development?
I think because it puts creators at the core of the discussion, right?
Okay.
So because they become not an afterthought as they would have been previously, like, oh, we want to do X. They've designed it, they've planned it, and then they involve the creatives. We're changing the dynamic and the formula so that the creative is at the core. So I think that would help to kind of, transform.
Absolutely. Absolutely, especially when we talk about buildings.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. It's a 1 week event. So what I want you to do now, you have the floor to elaborate and tell us from your concept to your mission of Design Week, including in that when it is, for how long it is, and if you want to break down what's happening on each day, that's up to you.
I think, as I mentioned before, this is our post-COVID relaunch.
Exactly.
So we're not as focused as being the big design week that we were in the past. We're focused a little bit more on quality of exhibits than quantity, just to kind of reestablish ourselves again for those who may not be familiar. And so we really focus this time on kind of really conceptual things that will kind of have people thinking way after they've already attended. And again, planting those seeds, as we mentioned. So a few standout exhibits, I think I would just shout out. So one, we have the Plastic Palace. So 3 multimedia artists. So the 3 of them, I just had this concept of, there's a lot of plastic waste in town, and we're constantly using the water bottles and disposing, use and throw, use and throw, use and throw. But what happens after that? What does it mean for our lives, for our environment? So they came up with a kind of a life-size art installation, and it's called the Plastic Palace, and you can actually go inside a house made of plastic. And everything inside the house is made of plastic, from the chair to the table. And
wow, that's lovely.
And you see all of the bottles, and you start kind of thinking about your own bottle consumption.
And you could actually build a house with it.
Yeah. So, but also, are we thinking about that? What can we do with these materials? Just sometimes we're just asking questions, and sometimes we're just kind of presenting new ideas. And so, I had the opportunity this year to kind of just explore that a little bit, and so we did. So that's one. For our fashion day, we're doing in collaboration. I like a lot of collaborations with local creatives. We are featuring a recap of the Hub of Africa Fashion Week that just passed. For those who may have missed it, the tech event, we have some exciting up and coming tech, some NFT projects, a non-fungible token. So it's kind of crypto related. So there's some of those, and different kind of multimedia artists. We're also featuring for Art and Multimedia Day a lot of local photographers. We'll have some photography exhibitions, but also Addis Video Art Festival is showing us a sneak peek. So I love just collaborating with the local scene.
That's lovely.
So we're doing that. We have a food and gastronomy event. So I was very adamant about including tech and food into the conversation, because both are, again, 0 to 1 things. Right? You're taking something for nothing, you're creating something.
Exactly.
It's just the materials that we use are different. So food and gastronomy, just getting people to think about, what they eat, how it's prepared, how it's presented, local materials and ingredients. So there's that. And then last, we're closing, Dink TV. Dink TV is also the new management for Design Week. In partnership with Kinetic Dawn Multimedia, we're launching a digital platform all about creatives.
Oh, that's lovely.
To keep the conversation going. So one of the things about Design Week, we do the event, then silence for a year. Do the event and then silence for the year. So this one allowed us to kind of keep the conversation going. We interview different kind of creatives like yourselves, see what you're into, what are you doing, how are you living, and we just kind of get to keep that going as a content, which I love. So that will be launching on Saturday. And then Sunday, we have a Sunday picnic and design market. So changing again the format for how we do bazaars and kind of, just kind of want to shake things up a little bit. So all that will be there to experience. Hopefully you'll be there every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Metasebia, I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to
Thank
have
you
this
for
great
having
conversation.
me. Thank you. This was so lovely.
It was my pleasure. Now, before we say our goodbyes, is there any last words that you want to give your audience on anything really, not just the Design Week, but even for the next generation, how they should go about doing things?
I would say that there's no, direct path to any. You just set your sights, chart your course. It's your course to chart, and figure out how you want to get there. And you may constantly have to change and navigate and weave. It's okay. So you just have to be adaptable, especially in this African environment. I think the people who will survive and thrive are those who are adaptable and flexible. So that's my parting advice, I guess, to everybody. And then the second thing I would say is, going back to how we want to use technology to enhance experience, this time around I really tried to do that with Design Week. So you'll see QR codes a lot on our different marketing materials, on our billboard. So I would invite people to scan the QR code. We have an AR experience, augmented reality experience. I'll demo it with you once we finish.
Nice.
And different types of elements we've included this year, so to explore that.
Thank you. That should be very exciting. So we thank you very much for watching a Pan-African show called Afreeqa. It comes on Saturdays on African Renaissance television services at 4 p.m. This is your host, Qassalor Seifu. Thank you for tuning in.